Okay, so we're live. I managed to do this so far. Nora usually does all of this, and uh, we'll see how this goes. Um, hey everyone, we're here for our episode 6 of Sips with Sitti, and I'm just waiting on Nora. Oh, hi, Ina Mulamani. We're really excited for today, actually. Um, Today, we are being joined by two very special guests. Amanda Baker, the Chief Operations Officer for Tease and Founders Fund, and as well, Sheena Brady, the founder of Tease and Founders Fund. So we're super excited. And hopefully I don't experience too many technical difficulties. um, but we're really thrilled for this opportunity to talk to them. Um, and then Nora is just going to be joining us shortly. So we wanted to get started today first with a few things on our list. Um, but we just wanted to address a couple things. We're going to start our episodes now with a couple new segments. So we're really excited to share that with you all, and then we'll go from there. And I think Nora just joined, so we'll get her on here. Let me see. Okay, so I'm just going to invite Nora. Okay. She's probably laughing at me right now for my inability to do this.
Hello.
Hey. Hey, we did
How
it.
are you?
Good.
Okay,
How are
cool.
you?
Good. So today we have some special guests. I think you were doing an intro, so I'll let you finish.
No, I just said we're having really two amazing guests that we've been trying to get on the episodes for quite some time. So we're really excited they're finally able to make it because they're super busy and for good reason. But I said we have Sheena Baker from Tease and Founders Fund. She's the founder of Tease, and then we have Sheena Brady and Amanda Baker, who is the Chief Operations Officer for Tease and Founders Fund. So very, very
Two
excited.
very incredible women. We're so
Yeah.
excited to have them as guests. And the inside scoop with some of the things that they're working on, but also particularly around our topic today. Did you already? Did I miss that? Did you already talk about it?
We didn't, no. And I think I have a request to join here, but I don't know if that's someone new or no. Okay, it went away. Never mind. Sorry.
No.
Is that
Yeah.
you? Okay.
It's okay.
So
Okay,
our
so
topic.
our topic is risk taker tell all. Um, and we were reflecting a little bit about this because as business owners, we're constantly kind of taking risks. We're putting ourselves out there. And we wanted to talk a little bit about this because we felt like sometimes we can hold ourselves back when we don't take a risk or when we're not putting ourselves out there. And what does that really mean from a business perspective? And is it time for you to invest that money into your business? Should you do a rebrand when maybe it's going to cost you a little bit of money? Little things like that. Like I think are important to discuss. And is risk part of our day-to-day business, right?
I think the short answer is yes. I
Is
mean,
yeah.
it is. I think, any small business, and we'll talk more about this obviously with Amanda and Sheena, but any small business is a risk, right? So, you just have to be cognizant of that, even going into it from the very beginning.
Especially as people sometimes have to, quit their full-time jobs and, you have nothing else except this business that you're running. And so you're really putting your all, your 120%, 200% into this. And we talked about this a little bit before, but sometimes you put a risk into entering new markets. Sometimes it's, new products that you bring to market that you're not sure how people are going to react to it. And as much as like, and I think for me particularly, I'm one of those people that where like I feel it in my gut, and I'm like, oh, this just feels good. Like we have to run with it. But I know sometimes, Jackie, like me and you have very different approaches sometimes to business. Like I'm very much a risk taker, and you're like, wait, let's just hold on the brakes a little, right? Like sometimes, do you think that I take too many risks?
So
You
I would, no, you know what I would say is I think we balance each other very well. And I think
okay.
that in and of itself is important. It's important for having that risk-taking approach, because you need to be a risk taker to be in business. We just know that. But you also need to have someone, I think, who is willing to step in and say something to you and not afraid to get a little pushback, right? Because, you need that, yeah, you need that balance, that yin and yang. So I would say sometimes you certainly are taking risks where I'm like, I don't know if we should do that. But it's not so much whether or not I think it's a good or bad idea. It's more of like, all right, I love the concept of this. Let's see how we can now like approach it from like an informed perspective. And you're always open to that at the end of the day, because you know as well that like, yeah, you've got these really cool ideas, and sometimes I'm kind of the killjoy. But that's okay. That's okay, because
So
like I said, it's a balance.
it's also like remembering that like taking a risk doesn't mean that you're not planning. It doesn't
Right.
mean that you're not setting goals. It doesn't mean that you're not doing your homework. It doesn't mean that you don't consult other people in the process. I know sometimes when we want to do something new, we often sometimes go to our advisory board and
Yes.
ask, you guys think this is a good idea? Because we feel like it's important to lean back on your surrounding to make sure that if you are implementing something new, if you are entering a new market, it's not so haphazardly sometimes. And sometimes we want to be very haphazard where like we want to run with it, but we find that it it throws us off in our like ability to just like focus on our goals and kind of some of the things that we're trying to achieve essentially. But it doesn't it's all about planning, right? It's about proper budgeting, proper planning, looking at like, is this fulfilling what we're trying to achieve? Is this part of the goals that we set for ourselves? And sometimes we do pivot, and that happens a lot where we pivot from where we initially had started, but it is towards like an overarching goal that we're trying to reach at the end of the day, and I think that's very important, right? um yeah, but
So
with this episode also, I do want to take just a second to for those that are celebrating Ashura today or possibly yesterday, I just wanted to take a moment. I know there's a few people that could be fasting because of Ashura, so this is a very special day for Muslims that are fasting, are celebrating and commemorating Ashura. I know I'm fasting, and it's always difficult to fast outside of Ramadan. So I just wanted to take a few moments to just remember Ashura and those that are taking the time around that. And then particularly also with a lot of the world events, we did want to also take a few minutes to reflect on some of the events happening literally all around, but particularly around the issues of refugees. And I know, Jackie, you had some points that you wanted to share.
yeah, first of all, I think that we would be remiss to not discuss what's going on right now in Afghanistan. We are seeing, obviously, throughout the year, we've seen upwards of 500,000 people displaced. And this has been due to an increase in violence, but that's not to say that, there hasn't been ongoing crises within the country due to a lot of tension from outside forces coming in. We can go on and on about politics here, but I think the fact of the matter is there are human lives at stake at the end of the day. And the Taliban recently took over Afghanistan this past week. I know I've been watching the news very closely, and a lot of people within our community are very close to family and friends there, and so we want to really respect the fact that everyone may have some sort of a personal connection to this, not just a professional one, but very personal. And so at the moment, it's important to remember as well that there have been refugees coming from Afghanistan for years now. There's 2.5 million refugees from Afghanistan. And they actually create one of the largest protracted refugee populations in Asia. They are the largest in Asia, and they're the second largest in the world. And so, in addition to that, we want everybody to be aware of the fact that most of these people are women and children. In fact, they're estimated, UNHCR estimates 80% are women and children. So, when we hear these numbers, right, and we think in such a large scale, we also want to keep in mind that these are human beings who, at the end of the day, they're picking up their lives and leaving at a moment's notice. We, as an organization ourselves, we always want to be doing more, and we wish we could. Our hope is that we can provide some sort of, addition to the conversation. And so we've put up, so far, we've been able to publish a list of resources. It's not a comprehensive list by any means, but it's certainly a reputable list. And we've put that up on our blog. It's also available on our Instagram, and you should definitely check it out. We're also open to hearing from other people if they have resources that they know of that are worth looking into. But we really just want to take a moment to bring this to people's attention if you haven't heard of it yet. And if you have, just to encourage you to do what you can. If you can't donate, contribute, that's also fine. Some people can't afford to do that, but what we all can afford to do is write to our representatives. If you're in the United States, write to politicians wherever you are locally, and ask them to make a concerted effort on behalf of your government to do something about this. So.
I know that the UNHCR actually issued a non-return advisory for refugees coming out of Afghanistan to advise countries globally to accept them, without limitations and without barriers. A few countries have come up, and I know particularly in Canada, there's been an open call to support Afghani asylum seekers to come into Canada, and I know there's wonderful activists and just people that are advocating around refugee issues that have stepped up and are offering free support from that end. So do look into that. I also want, and I'm always cognizant, because events like this often put a burden on the community itself, where people suddenly want to know everything about it, and then they're seeking out Afghanis, and they're like, what's going on? And then Afghanis feel that they have this sense of responsibility where, like, okay, now we have to kind of explain to the world what's happening, when for a long time there's been kind of a blind eye to what's happening. So I think it's also important for us to do our research and look at trusted sources to make sure that, like, we're not quick to spread information without checking the sources first. That's something that we're always very careful at with Sitti. One particular thing, I know we are working with a partner where we currently source our saffron, actually, from Herat, Afghanistan. So if you guys notice, we actually sell saffron olive oil soap, and the saffron that we source is sourced from farmers from Herat in Afghanistan. So we've reached out to our partners to see if we can get more information about the farmers and more information about, I guess, an ability for us to be able to highlight and just shed more light around the products that we are sourcing for the soaps that we put together. So we hope to be able to provide more information in the coming period around that particular thing, especially with a lot of light around Afghanistan. I think it's important for people to know. And when we make a concerted effort to work with sourcing raw materials, like, for example, saffron, it was very important that, like, there was that connection to supporting women and local farmers in Afghanistan, because we know that saffron farms are looking to replace opioid farms in Afghanistan, and that's something that's really critical in terms of the development and just the well-being of the country itself, right? So we're also in touch with a few smaller nonprofit organizations that are working towards helping Afghani refugees in Turkey. And I know we've shared things here and there, but it's always great to look at who's already in the playing field. And that is why we put together the list that we did. UNHCR also is kind of on the ground providing emergency support with what's happening there. So like we said, do your research and make sure that you do check your sources, and to kind of be mindful of what's happening, but reaching out to local Afghani communities here to see how we can support and how we can step up to be there is important. Yeah, I mean, it's a heavy topic, and we don't mean to switch away from it, but I mean, it's something that we thought was critical for us to bring to light and to just reflect on, and
Yeah.
So for the next part, I guess, I know we wanted to take a few like a change in some of the things for our lives.
Yeah.
With our guests.
Yeah. So one thing that we've been talking about as a team is kind of like, I think we're all really in love with the products that we make at Sitti. We know that they are something that we can always stand behind, and we really enjoy being able to like promote them honestly, because at the end of the day, we use them all the time. But we were also discussing how, we want to start sharing with people the things we do and use in our daily lives that we find really useful. And, just kind of sharing that with our community. We have people ask us a lot of the times, oh, do you have certain products? But we may not have them available, or we just don't carry that type of product at Sitti yet. And so, it's always nice to be able to suggest that to other people. Oh, and I think we lost Nora. I'll have to get her back in a minute. Let's see. Here she is. All right. Let's see if we can get her back. There you are. Okay.
I think I lost you. That was
That's okay. That's okay. It's good I'm on the account today.
Yeah. You know what? I wasn't sure. I thought it was me. I thought it was you losing connection, and then I was like,
I thought it was me too, and I was like, I'll just keep talking, and I'm talking to myself.
No, it's great. But you were talking about our favorite things.
Yeah, so really it came down to the fact that, we've had people come to us sometimes and ask us if we carry certain products in our store, or, we can't always say yes, unfortunately, and we stand by the things that we're able to create with our team and sell, because we use them every day. I use a bar of Sitti soap every single day. I use my tote bag every single day. the sponge in the bathroom and the kid, like, you know, we have all our stuff. It's our everyday things, but we were like, okay, well then, you know, let's start sharing some of the other things we use every day that even though they're not in the Sitti store, or even if they're not particular items, we just want to kind of share that with our community. And so we're going to start this little segment, and it's going to be, I mean, hopefully Oprah doesn't get mad at us for using it. Our favorite things is the working title. But we wanted to start with this. And Nora, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to start with, but
No, I'll let you start, and then I'll chime in. I'll chime in after.
Sure. And we'll share these on the show notes as well. If there are links to like get some of these. By the way, we're not being sponsored by any products here or anything. It's just us like putting this out there for anybody who wants to like enjoy the same products we do or the same things we do. So one thing that I've really been actually using a lot of are these candles. And I thought I had one here and now I can't find it. I have these candles that they're called KSM, and they're out of Baltimore, and I use them all the time. Let me see if I can find one. Here's one. Okay, can I turn this around?
Yes, I think you can.
Okay. So this is a brand that I'm really enjoying, and they're based out of Baltimore. They're, you know, responsibly sourced candles. They're soy candles. These things last forever, and I've been using them a lot. So we just made like this braised chicken the other night, and the house reeked of chicken, and I burned that thing for like 4 hours and it was gone. So it was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I used to be obsessed with candles, but when you have like 3 kids and
yeah,
I'm
that's it.
paranoid that we will get like I don't know, I'll forget the fire, or my daughter's gonna put her hand in and then we end up not doing that. But I think what I switched to is the electric. Oh, Muhammad wants to join to support for a second. He's so sweet. I end up using an electric oud burner. So like we get this like oud, just like, yeah, you put it on like a burner and then like it's plugged into electricity and then it just burns around the house and it's great. So that's what I use as an alternative to the candle. So it works well.
Oh, nice.
Sheena here. I see Mo who is asking to join. But I don't know if have him join because we have 2 guests about to join us.
Yeah, we have 2 guests coming up, unfortunately.
Mo,
so
let's do a separate live with you. We'd love to have a
yeah,
especially with what's happening in Amman and some of the wonderful work that you're doing.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, hi Sheena. I don't know if she wants to join in early and she can tell us some of her favorite things too.
Sure.
And I think Tease there. Okay.
Yeah, Amanda's there.
Amanda and Sheena are joining us soon. But yeah, I mean, my other than that, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of favorite little things. And it's mostly just like when I wind down and it's like my cup of tea with cream. That's like the thing that just like, if you just want to give me my 5 minutes of peace, I just want my cup of tea with cream and a little bit of honey and I'm like good. And that's like the peak. In the summer, I got really into my bubble teas, which I take with less sugar because it's overly sweet, but I've also been overly obsessed with it. It could be because of my kids, because I'm always taking them for bubble teas. And so I find
they like it. They like bubble tea?
Oh my God, they love it. I mean, they get the mangoes and the flavors, not like the tea. But I'm definitely obsessed with bubble tea. I need to learn how to do it at home, and maybe Tease Tea has some recipes of making your own bubble tea at home. That would be kind of cool.
That's a good idea. I'm sure, you know what, they have these, well, we can ask them when they come on, but I know they have these little, these like tea, kind of these glass bottles. And I'm sure there's a way to do that. Oh,
Lemon.
someone's saying
Oh, how does it?
lemongrass.
You know what? I used to be obsessed with lemongrass at one point. Like I would buy the whole bark and like cut it up and put it in everything. Um, and lemongrass was definitely like my thing. I just take raw lemongrass and boil it, and I would put it in all the food. And the funny thing is, when I started cooking with it, my husband was like, "What is that smell?" I'm like, "Oh, you'll get used to it eventually." But lemongrass has a very nice, relaxing element, especially like an end of day type thing. So yeah, definitely. A good spearmint tea also goes a long way to like get you to relax.
Yeah, yeah. And oh, and Amanda's saying the glass tumbler is what it is. I think I called it a glass bottle, which is
Yeah, no,
not
glass
exactly.
tumblers are so popular. They're so beautiful too. I mean, I need to get myself one. So yeah.
Yeah. We'll put a link to them in the show notes so everybody can check those out. So I guess, without further ado, I'd really love to start bringing on our guests. So let me see if I can manage this without signing off by accident. Here we go. Okay. I think we've got Amanda and Sheena. So I sent those requests. Yeah. There we go.
Hello.
Hi.
Sheena's vibe, summer vibes. I love it.
This is my summer office right now.
Oh,
Oh,
we are all so jealous. I'm getting driving over right now.
Come on
And
over.
my summer
There's lots of
office is
room.
above our warehouse.
Yeah, we're enjoying some family
well,
time here for a week at the cottage right now. So we're here for a week on a little mini vacation, which is nice. And I have very bad Wi-Fi out here in the middle of nowhere. So if I'm a little choppy, I apologize, but we'll do our best.
No, that's amazing. So I mean, what we could do is we could get you like intro before you get cut off, and so dive right in towards like a little bit about tea and like even talk about the risks you've taken in the process. But we'll start with intros for you guys and go from there.
Yeah, sounds great. I can go first. I'm Sheena, of course, and I'm the founder of Tease, which I started the company back in 2013. So hard to believe that it's already been like 8 years this November, I think, which is incredible. And yeah, so I'm the founder of the brand, the certified tea sommelier. So really, my day to day is everything from working with Amanda on new product creation, brand development, business development, and all that good stuff. So yeah, Amanda, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, so I always struggle to describe exactly what I do and even like what Sheena does because it's so many things, but essentially we run Teas, everything from our marketing to currently our fulfillment that is changing soon. And then we also run Founders Fund. So Founders Fund, we'll talk a little bit more about that origin story coming up. But Founders Fund funds, mentors, and educates women in business. So that's another kind of sister organization that we run here at Tease as well.
great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the intros. And we kind of put together a few questions for you, but feel free to take this and if it goes in a direction that's different or whatever, we're really happy to like entertain that. I wanted to ask really quickly. I know that Nora and Nora, are you okay to stay on for a little bit longer?
And then
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And I will say, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. So I don't know if maybe if we could mute ourselves whenever we're not talking, just because I think I'm getting feedback on my end. There we go. Okay. That sounds great. Cool. Sorry, I'm tech support here and I'm not very tech savvy. So we wanted to first ask you guys, just talk a little bit about the idea of risk, how it came to you, because I know we were communicating a little bit back and forth over email, And you had brought up a couple recent developments for yourself as Tease Tea and Founders Fund. And so what kind of, just talk a little bit about like what risk means to you right now. But then also like how that connects to your backstory as Tease Tea and your beginnings, I guess.
Yeah, I can definitely kick it off. And first of all, I think it's just really important to acknowledge that, you know, the individual risk journey for everyone can be totally unique depending on, you know, your circumstances, your privileges. And when we talk about risk, you know, it's easy for me to sit here and talk about all the risks I've taken, you know, as an entrepreneur over the years. But also, I just want to acknowledge and not minimize the fact that, you know, there are a lot of entrepreneurs in this world that have probably had to take even more, you know, serious, dangerous risks, especially when, you know, even just seeing a lot of the headlines with what's going on in Afghanistan right now, for starters, when we talk about risk in terms of like life or death type of situations, you know. So I just really want to call out and acknowledge that. I think that's super important. But for me, you know, how I look at risk, like I grew up in, you know, very complicated family dynamic. We really had little to no money. And most of my family was very risk adverse. There was always this philosophy of don't dream too big, don't extend yourself beyond your immediate means of access to, you know, money or whatever. For example, my mom, growing up, she took out debt one time to open a small home salon and then struggled with bankruptcy a few short years later. And I saw what that risk did to her and like what that debt kind of did to her as well in the process. And so, you know, my family just is very risk adverse in general. But for me, I've really kind of pushed myself outside of those comfort zones to actually, you know, dream bigger, take bigger risks, make bigger moves. And you know, I've put, Amanda has heard my horror stories over the last, you know, year or so that she's been on the team, but everything from putting my mortgage on the line for collateral for my business, or like every investment that I have, like these are big risks and big moves that were not seen or part of my, you know, culture or lifestyle growing up or anything like that. But for me, risk just, you know, it means relying on two things. Number one, trusting your gut and going with what feels right, but also whenever possible, being to back it up with some sort of, you know, data or analysis and reasons to believe why that risk is worth taking in the first place. So not, you know, reckless risk rather, but some semi-calculated risk, of course.
Yeah, and very similar to Sheena's background, this is actually something that really connected us when we first met each other. But I come from a very similar place to Sheena, where my family and the people around me weren't really making big moves. It was all about, you know, just do what you're supposed to do, and you know, don't be too loud, don't be too much, don't, you know, try too hard in any direction, because you could end up losing everything. And something that Sheena and I had been reflecting on leading up to this session is we were talking about the situation in Afghanistan, because something that I often say to our team is like, the worst thing that can happen is we lose all of our money and our egos hurt. That's the worst thing that can happen in our situation. We recognize that risks for other people are immediate life and death circumstances. So it's really a privilege to be able to go broke, you know, and going broke a couple of years ago was a lot easier than going broke now in some ways. But it's just interesting as we grow into a bigger company, the risks that we're taking just get bigger. And when Sheena tells me these stories of the early days of Tease, I'm just always like so in awe. Like I'm just so impressed with the things that she's done, because every single time there was an opportunity for a little bit of growth, she would like bet the farm. Like she's like, everything I've got, like, let's go, let's do this. And that's really fueled a newfound appetite for risk that I have. And the more entrepreneurs that I get to know through Founders Fund and through just connecting with people, the most common thing that I see in the ones that have made impactful long-term companies is their appetite for risk, and how every single time they're like, I'm all in, let's go. And just seeing that in Sheena has just been so incredibly inspiring.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's
And
so
sorry, I was just going to say, like, I just want to add on to what Amanda shared. Thanks for sharing that. And I think, like, you know, I also look at risk as an opportunity to do better for the next generation of my family. So in terms of like what inspires me to take those risks in the first place, I mentioned the story about my mom and everything, and those circumstances growing up, because there was this cycle of like generational poverty, to be honest, in a lot of ways with my parents and their parents, and a lot of those cycles that just kind of kept perpetuating. And so a big, huge reason why I take a lot of the risks that I do in business and out of business is really just this desire to create new generational wealth for my family and the generations to come, and make the best experience that I can for my daughter, to just struggle a little bit less than I did, or than my mom did, or her mom did, right? So I think like that's really a huge, huge motivator, is really being a part of like ending some of those generational challenges and cycles, and looking to a better future, and creating, a strong legacy in the process. So.
Yeah, I really love that. And there's this thing that I do that, Sheena, I think we've talked about this a couple times, but not recently. Anytime that I'm scared or faced with something that's going to be really challenging or difficult or really risky, I always say, like, do it for the grandkids, because what story do I want to be telling my grandkids when I'm an old woman? Do I want to say, yeah, actually I didn't get on that flight. I didn't go to that place. I didn't take that opportunity or that risk. Like I just chilled instead. Like that's not the story I want to be telling them.
So
that's not the life I want to set up for them.
Like it takes a lot of courage and sometimes even some confidence to be like, we're going to do it. We're going to make it. And it's like, really, do you think that, isn't that too much? And it's like, no, we're going to find a way to make it happen. When there are moments where you don't have that courage, or you've kind of like depleted yourself of, that overconfidence, over courage, what do you do to kind of lift it back up?
Well, for me personally, like peer mentorship is everything. I say this all the time to like every founder and even every human I know, like regardless of what your career journey is, or your business journey, or your family journey, like find someone who's on your level, like kind of in the same playing field as you, and grow in parallel, because they'll be able to get you and understand you when you experience those lows. Some of the lows that I have in my business, where the risks that I take were a complete failure sometimes, there are not a lot of people who would understand that. I couldn't necessarily go to my sister and be like, oh, this thing happened, and she would struggle to understand, because that's just not a day in her life, for example, right? But my peer mentor, who has a business about the same size as me, and we've been growing in parallel over the last 7-8 years together, I can share that with them, and we can talk through it and sometimes navigate those challenges together. And also, that person's also an incredible reminder that like I am still strong, I am still an incredible leader, I am still capable of doing great things, and that what's happening right now is just a brief snapshot in time that really, really hurts, and it's okay to honor that feeling, and that it sucks, and that it might take some time to recover, but trusting my track record, and just how I've showed up in the past, what I've achieved in the past, and reminding myself that that's really a better reflection of the human I am overall and what I'm capable of.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big advocate for peer, I want to say, peer mentors and peer mentor groups as well. Something that I always do if I'm starting to get that fear spiral and I'm like, oh no, how do I get out of this? Number one, I usually like tell somebody about it. Sheena sometimes will get like a text from me and I'm just like, I'm scared. And then we have a conversation about it. That's happened a couple times recently. But then I also think like, what is the worst thing that could happen? And this is where there are definitely structures of privilege that I am very lucky to have. But the worst thing that happens is we go broke and my ego really hurts. And, those are two things that I can build from still. Like I've been broke before. I've been broke for a long time, very broke before. Like I can do that. Like I've been there. Now that I've been there, I'm not afraid to lose everything most of the time. Sometimes there are those moments where I'm like, oh no, I'm really comfortable right now, and if I do this thing I might lose it, but it always comes back to reminding myself like I can be broke, I can look like a fool, like that's fine. Those are places that I can build back up from.
Can you, if you feel comfortable elaborating on one of those moments, tell us that story? I think because I 100% can identify with that. I know Nora can probably, like we all have been in this place to some degree. And we'd love to hear more about that a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I want to definitely talk about our relaunch coming up because Sheena and I have risked a lot in that. But the first thing that came to mind when you asked me was actually how I came to Tease and Founders Fund, because I left a very stable job, 5 years at a job that I really loved. Actually, Nora knows a little bit about that job when I was at Public Inc., social impact marketing agency in Toronto. So I left that very stable job that I loved with people that I loved. And I left my home city of Toronto to come to Ottawa. I left a decades-long partnership. I left a lot of stuff so that I could come and focus on Tease. And that was a huge risk. Like I didn't know. Tease is we're still a small company. We're growing quickly. But it was like, it's really something that a lot of people, a lot of friends and family said, like, are you sure? Like, you could lose everything. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, let's do it. But I want to see if Sheena has some personal examples that she'd like to share, because she's got just like a really great catalog of all the risks that she's taken. But then after, I do want to talk about our rebrand and a little bit of that process.
Yeah, I mean, I have enough risks to fill a book, I'd say by now. But most specifically, like when we're always investing in like R&D for new products and stuff like that at Tease, like on the business side of things. One that comes to mind was in the middle of the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic last year. We had this incredible opportunity where, long story short, we effectively pre-sold 100,000 units of a single product. Okay. And so we pre-sold 100,000 units of one product to one specific client who was going to resell them. And long story short, like this product it's not capable of being manufactured in North America. Like whenever possible, we always try to manufacture within Canada first, then the United States. But obviously, supply chains are global for a reason, and there's a lot of things that are only manufactured in other countries. So this product in particular was from China, so from overseas. And we did our whole due diligence in the process of like finding the right manufacturer and making sure they checked all of our boxes on our quality control and social compliancy side of things. But to actually send that money over to like a human at the time that you had never met in person, right? Just sending like this massive wire transfer overseas, and you go to the bank and you're like, yeah, I need to like send a whole bunch of money to a supplier overseas. And they're like, okay, just so you know, once it's sent, like it can never come back. Like once it's gone, it's gone. And like that was the moment where I was like, well, what if this isn't a real company? What if I've been duped? Like, because if it was in Canada, like I would just go ahead and travel there, for example, and validate things in person. But in COVID, I couldn't travel. Like that was just not an option, especially traveling, internationally. And so, this was 6 shipping containers worth of product. For context, 6 shipping containers that needed to cross the ocean to get to Canada. And I just remember sitting there being like, okay, I've invested over 6 figures in. Sorry about that. Am I back? Okay. Yeah. So, I'd invested, 6 figures in this one product. It's overseas. It's like, now I'm being told it's like crossing in an ocean. And I just remember spiraling in anxiety at home for like several weeks, being like, well, what if that boat sinks? What if? Like, it's such an irrational fear. But I'm like, what if the boat just sinks? Or what if there's some mechanical issues? What if every container gets dropped into the bottom of the ocean? And you just have these irrational fears that you keep telling yourself. But then, also like the reality is, if the worst case scenario does happen, like I'm going to be out a lot of money, and I had to go into debt to pay for these products in the first place. It's not like, Tease is sitting on 6 figures of cash flow at any given time. Like I had to, make a compelling case to the bank to lend me money for this purchase order in the first place. And so then you start spiraling because, I know that my mortgage is on the line for collateral if this shipment doesn't work out. My daughter's RASP is on the line if this doesn't work out. You start thinking about all these things. And yeah, that's probably one of the examples of risk that really stood out to me during the pandemic. But fortunately, that situation did work out, thankfully. Everything was fine.
Yeah, and it was very funny when it was all happening too, when Sheena was like, I could have just sent all of our money to a fake company. Like that was it, and it was comical. Like, and I laughed when she said that, and I was like, Christ, she's right. But it's just like something like, what else were we gonna do? What was the other option? And it's become an inside kind of joke at the office too. Every time we're worried about sea shipping, we just go like, well, I'm not a sea captain. And it's kind of like, hey, at some point you've just got to like let go and give it up to the universe and hope that it works out.
I think, you know, we can definitely identify with that feeling. And I think also, right, like you were talking earlier, Sheena, about your upbringing and how it did come with this experience of being so risk averse and yeah, coming from generational poverty, and so, to some degree, it does get passed down, right? This sometimes irrational fear, which could be very rational from generations past, right? So, you know, I think that I can certainly identify with that. And, you know, my dad came from very little, and his dad was an indentured servant in Italy. And so just like, you know, that feeling of being risk averse is it's very real and very palpable. But Nora, I'm sure, can also talk to her experience as well. Oh, do you have to, what?
Yeah, I do have to run out like in a minute, but I remember I think for me one of the biggest was just leaving a comfortable full-time job and salary, and then saying I can't do it anymore. And particularly because of mental health, and I just felt like I was trying to balance and like way too many things, and particularly do something that wasn't making me happy at the end of the day. And so and that was I took like I you know I had a little baby, a toddler, and I was like, okay, is this really the right decision to jump in and to go into this like entrepreneurial journey when you know I'm also putting my family potentially at risk, because what if I don't make it? What if I just let go of something that was good and comfortable, and like I like this whatever lifestyle that you create for yourself as a result. And sometimes it just doesn't, I think at the moment you just feel it in your gut, and it just doesn't matter. Like you just like, I don't want it. I don't care for it. And I want, like, I'm seeking something more. And for me, that was it. It was like, this didn't feel well to just, pass through life haphazardly without this like purpose of like really trying to achieve something greater than myself. So I think that's my kind of quick risk story to share. I do have to hop off, and I'm so sorry for that. But Jackie's going to continue, and I know I'll watch the rest of this on my way out. I'm actually taking my daughter to a doctor's appointment, so I have to rush out on that account. Thank you guys so much. It's such a pleasure to see you. Amanda, I miss you. We need another call really soon. I'm sending you big hugs.
Bye,
Sheena, enjoy the sun. Come back with a really nice tan.
Oh yes, I'm working on it.
Yes, for sure.
Let her say bye.
Hi.
Here, she can say bye, Dad.
Oh, you want to say bye?
Hi.
Say bye, Mimi. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Nora just touched on something really interesting that I definitely felt when I was leaving Tease is more than a full-time job, but when I was leaving my much more like secure, normal, stable job, was the feelings that like she just couldn't do it anymore. Like her mental health just wasn't where it was at and stuff. And I actually think that you take a risk no matter what you do. If you choose to not do the scary thing, choosing the like comfortable thing that is slowly killing you is also a risk. It just is more, I think, accepted and more comfortable to kind of kill your soul that way versus like, let's do the scary thing and like take a shot at something really amazing.
Yeah, I think you're speaking to something that a lot of people probably feel and don't always say out loud. And for that reason, right? Like you're in a comfortable place sometimes, or even if it's not comfortable, it's predictable, right? Like you know what's coming next, or you're able to see what's coming ahead. And that in and of itself is a type of security for people, right? Even if it's not the place where they're happiest or the place where they're feeling the most fulfilled. And I think like, at least as Americans, I think everybody thinks we're big risk takers culturally, but I think there's also a lot of that feeling of, just a desire to be able to like, okay, I just know what's coming ahead. Like I see what's on the horizon line and I don't need to worry about it. But worry, there are different types of worry, right? And I think, kind of going into I do want to hear a little bit about your experience of the relaunch and kind of how those feelings translated to the relaunch for you for Tease Tea. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll let Amanda talk about the relaunch details, but I can talk about the why we decided to relaunch in the first place. And basically, during the pandemic, we had some challenges like many businesses. But what's interesting is that we got really comfortable pre-pandemic, I would say. Like we were known as like this loose leaf tea company. We had fairly predictable products by this point, having been established for quite a few years. And in the middle of the pandemic, like here we are, and we're like, you know what, let's burn it to the ground and start from scratch. So we took like what was essentially a well-oiled machine in a lot of ways, because we grew into that after several years, but we gave ourselves permission to try new things, to innovate from the ground up. So basically 95% of all of our existing products are not going to exist in 6 weeks from now. And this has been 8 months in the making right now, changing everything from the website to our marketing, to our brand and how we sell and why we sell, and getting more intentional about connecting the dots between Tease and our social impact strategy. I think a lot of business owners might have been like, why would you take on that risk? Like what you're doing is working. Like it's okay. Like you're still making money at the end of the day. You're still a successful business. Like why would you do this? And the why for us, was really giving ourselves permission to be agile and innovate, because we can. We're not some big corporation that has to go through a million layers of corporate politics or red tape or anything like that to get things done. We're still a small team that has the ability to make whatever decisions we want. And if we can make, decisions right now that'll help us innovate, even though they're super risky, to, have brand new products relaunch like out of nowhere, when it's not totally necessary, we are giving ourselves permission to be experimentative, to take these risks and hope for an even stronger, more sustainable business long term. And so in a way, it's kind of like that analogy of taking a couple steps back in order to create an even brighter future. So that's a bit about the why. And I don't know, Amanda, maybe you can dive into more of like the I guess the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I want to give away, because I'm like, I'm still on the point where it's like a little bit deep.
You can
on
share
the
whatever
DL.
you want. Share whatever you want, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
Well, yeah, for me, we're just honestly growing into our potential. Sheena, me coming on and pre-pandemic, had built such a great company that obviously did well because she had it for so long, and it was had very loyal customer base and all this stuff. But we just saw, as we started to work together as a team, like the potential of where it could go. And I'm really excited that now our products are going to really reflect like the excellence that we strive for as well in our personal lives and relationships and all that good stuff. But our products are going to be, our blends are going to be 100% fully biodegradable. The packaging, everything will be in a pyramid tea bag format. So we wanted to make it easier for people to use the teas like as much as they possibly can throughout their day. We're leveling up in just like so many areas. If I listed off all of the brand new things coming, it would be like, this would be like a 6-hour session.
I'll create. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. It's my bad connection here. I apologize. But yeah, I can give like the, you know, kind of like the little spoiler. I think for Amanda and I, we were like, how do we level up and still, you know, provide exceptional quality blends, you know, for your wellness goals and desires without compromising sustainability or impact, right? Or convenience. And so we've really brought all those worlds together to kind of create a product that is just as convenient as ever, with still social impact being top of mind and even more intentional than ever and more sustainable than ever. And through the R&D process over the last 8 months, one cool thing, we didn't mean to do this, but an intentional side effect is that we believe we've actually created and are about to launch the world's first fully biodegradable, you know, tea blend collection that's also refillable. Because in our research, we haven't seen this yet. There hasn't been a company that has prioritized not only creating biodegradable outer packaging, but making that outer packaging refillable in the first place, so that you don't even have to throw it out if you don't want to. You can just simply refill it. And we didn't even try and do that. That was just like an interesting side effect of being so intentional with all of our design choices along the way.
We tried to be biodegradable, to be clear. We didn't try to be the
sorry.
first.
We tried to be biodegradable.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, we didn't have this mission in January. We weren't like, we want to create the world's first fully biodegradable and refillable tea collection. That's not what we sought out to do. We were like, how can we be more intentional about sustainability? How can we be more intentional about all these things? And yes, have biodegradable packaging, but the side effect of all that was, in the process, we created the world's first of something that we didn't even know we were doing.
That's amazing. And I think that oftentimes comes, I mean, going back to this concept of risk, like a lot of times when you do take those risks, you have these happy, you know, these happenstances that are like, I didn't even expect that to happen. I wasn't even anticipating that. And I think those are like, they're not bonuses. I think they happen for a reason when you do take those risks. And, you know, this is going to sound a little woo-woo-y, but, you know, like the universe kind of pays you back to some extent, is like, okay, good on you for doing that. Here's a little, like, you know, extra something. So I think that's not just, it's not just, you know, a coincidence. It happens for a reason. I know that we are like 2 minutes away from probably being knocked off here. So I do want to ask for just a first of all, congratulations on this relaunch. We are so excited to see these products. I can't wait to order some. And we'll make sure to put a link, and please let us know any information or any places we can send people on Tease Tea, but also Founders Fund. We didn't get a chance to really dig into Founders Fund this episode, but we would love to talk about that with you guys on another episode at some point, because Founders Fund is a whole amazing organization unto itself, of amazing women out there. But final points, if you could give us some advice for people to take away, you know, 30 seconds, what would you say? And I'll start with Amanda and then go on to Sheena.
Yeah, I think I have a really good sum up for if you're not sure if you should take a risk, or you're wondering if you should step into that. I always say, like, do it scared. Like, do it anyway, do it scared. You don't have to be fully confident about it. You don't have to be calm and cool and collected. You can go in like crying, knowing that it's the right thing to do, but being absolutely terrified. And that is just going to make your life so much more aligned with who you're meant to be.
I can't add to that. I think that was perfect. Sorry. Like, that is, I fully like agree and support exactly what Amanda shared. And that would be my exact advice too, to be honest. Yeah.
I love that. I really do. That's perfect. And it's a perfect note to end this on. So thanks again so much, Amanda and Sheena, for joining us today. And hopefully again, another day soon. We'll have to be in touch offline as well, because this is actually the first time I've been able to talk to you both. So this has really been an incredible experience. Thanks so much. And thank you for sharing. Like, this is not an easy thing to talk about, even when you've been in business for years. And so we really appreciate your honesty and the integrity that you both have. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having us. This has been like such a
Thank you.
nice little break in our day.
Great. Good. All right. Well, we'll talk to you both soon. And yeah, we'll have the show up on Instagram, on our Instagram, our IGTV channel. So everybody can rewatch it there. And we'll make sure to post show notes as well on the blog next week. So have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.